Good morning, folks, and welcome to Money Truth Moments with our very own money expert, our very own money whisperer. And today, our very own, we're going to talk about it's voting day today. So it's Super Tuesday. We have a fantastic show. It's Election Tuesday with our very own Judy Copenbarger talking about voting, finances, and the future of your wealth. How are you, Judy?
I am awesome. I love freedom days. Those days that you just really reflect on the freedoms that we have here. I spent most of October in another country, a couple of other countries, very different systems. Here we get to have a voice, we get to choose our leaders, and it's a wonderful day when we get to celebrate that and exercise our rights. It's great. Everybody vote. If you haven't yet, today's the day. Let's do it.
And that's going to be pretty much the theme of today. If you haven't voted, get off your butt and go vote because every vote matters and every vote counts. So remember that today. So what do you say we get started? Let's have some fun today. What do you think?
Okay, I love fun. Let's do it.
All right. So let me ask you, why is it important for voters to consider financial policies when casting their votes?
Well, they say it's the economy, stupid, right? People vote with their pocketbooks, they vote with their feet. And there are so many economic changes in our country, really, since, well, for quite a while, but COVID really brought a lot of these things to the forefront. People had changes in their industries, changes in their jobs. With the last administration, there's a big shift in how we do our economy, how we approach our global economy versus our US economy. There's been a lot of changes. And up for grabs, there might be a lot more changes, right? After today and the next few months. So I think it's just wise to be aware of what the impacts are on our pocketbooks and vote accordingly. If you want government to be bigger and have a little bit more oversight into how we do business, there's one side that would be for that. If you prefer government have less oversight into our business and we have a little more autonomy with our own companies and small businesses and things like that, then there's a side for that too. So whatever it is, just vote, right? Make your voice known. That way you can't complain legitimately. Some people will complain anyway.
That's
There's always
true.
that. But really, grab the people that have the values that you have and get everybody to vote wherever they are. Um, it really comes down to the money part. Most people do vote with their pocketbook and how they feel the impact of who they're voting for, all the way down from the president to the senators, Congress, local folks, um, even how money is spent in their school districts, and how the allocation of funds are used for the benefit of the children, for the benefit of the students. So all the way down, it's important to just get your voice out there. And it's wonderful that we get to do that.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what people should look for in a candidate platform, right? When it comes to financial policies.
Yeah, well, it's a little tricky. Here in California, we always have all kinds of things to vote on, the whole spectrum of things to vote on. And this election is no exception. It's just like, what does that mean? So when you read the things that the county puts out, that the voter, I don't know, whoever prints all that stuff up. There's all kinds of special interests. We get all this stuff in the mail, right? If you read one, it's like, oh, that sounds really good. I should vote that way. And you read another one like, oh, that sounds really good. I should vote that way. And so much information is not good information. So I think what we've learned as a family is we've got to do our due diligence. We've got to really look at the source. It helps to have a law background. I can read the contracts and read the proposals, but they don't make it easy. And then when you read the summaries, it's like, well, that's not what I just read, depending on who's crafting it and what their position is, what they want you to vote for. And this election is no exception. There are several things on there that if you read the short paragraph or the short, description of what it is, it's like, well, that's really not what it is. So one indicator that helped us this year with this election is looking at who supports and who opposes a new bill. And that's an
That's
indicator. You can go to their sites to see why they're supporting or why they're opposing the bill, what's in it for them. And I think that gives you a little bit more information. But this is really not for the faint of heart. You've got to put the time in, put the due diligence in. Otherwise, you might as well withhold your vote because you might be totally voting for the wrong side and you end up with something. We had that a couple of years ago. We had that Proposition 19, which nobody likes that. It's terrible for families. It's about passing your property to your family. without the big tax hit. And now we have the big tax hit. But the way the advertisement went, the way the story went, the way all those millions of dollars promoting for it to happen was like, well, I want my family to get my farm and my house after I die. I don't want them to not get it. Well, they always could get it, and they always could get it with a tax benefit. That proposal made, which is now law, made that tax benefit go away. And everybody thought it was gonna help their family, and it did not. I can't think of any cases where it helped a family. All the cases are the other way. So, hopefully one day that'll come up again and we'll vote the other way for it. But, anyway, that's a lot being said. I'm just so excited. There's so many things. We're waiting tonight to see, what's gonna pass, what's not. What do people in California want? Who are the leaders gonna be, across the country? Who's gonna be calling the shots and making decisions for us, fiscal decisions? I'm very interested in. So, there's a lot gonna happen today. It's an exciting time.
And it's something to be said, exactly what you're saying, that we created this confusion system where, you're thinking it's this is voting the right way, but a no actually is a positive and a yes is a negative, right? And they try to work around the language. I don't know if it's the lawyers that create this and all that, but it confuses people. Why can't it just be black and white? Hey, if you choose this, it's going to do this. If you choose this, it's going to do that. And so I'm
Well,
actually very happy. I'm actually very happy to see groups that are out there actually dissecting some of this information,
yeah.
so it gives voters the right information on how to do things correctly. You know,
Yeah, but it's a lot. It takes some research. It takes a little bit of time to delve in and really look not just at one source, at several. So it's a thing.
yeah.
It's a thing.
And we're talking about voting, folks. And another thing I'm going to remind you is keep in mind, we talked about from the high ground, up from the president all the way down to the local
Yeah.
races. And ask yourselves one thing, right? When you're looking at a candidate, what have they done for your community? What have they done out there? Or are you just see them every 4 years when it's time for election time? Because a lot of, unfortunately, politicians tend to do that. There's a lot also that are doing immediate work as soon as they get into office and all that too. So I think that also should play a key role in folks finding out what is your platform and stuff and what you said too.
Yeah, and we had this discussion as a family several times this week about who do we vote for? There's really not a lot of good choices when it comes to some of these local elections. And I'm talking school boards, some of the local judges. When you look into what their principles are and what their platforms are, it's like, well, I don't like any of them. And so that's kind of a reminder. Let's get involved. And I think a lot of folks around the country have started doing that. Since COVID, there was all this kind of reveal of what's really going on, and we had time to pay attention. But in our area, there's still not a lot of people stepping up out of their lives to go serve. But some people do that, Carlos. And I
You're
think
right.
it would be remiss not to talk about what you have been doing. You've been serving for years and you're hoping to serve in a new way. So can you share just a moment about what's going on in your life today?
Sure. So most of you may or may not know that I'm actually a current city councilman. I am currently running also for office for California State Senate. It's been an amazing race. I'm running as the public safety candidate because I've been the only one endorsed by all of law enforcement in California, in our county, and all of that. But I will tell you, I've met some amazing folks. One of the key things that you just mentioned also is about making sure people wake up and start voting and so forth. So I had the opportunity to speak at a trade school for barbers, right? And when I say kids, is everybody below 50 for me is a kid, right? So
Agreed.
yeah, right. So I got to talk to these young folks about who I am, where I came from, just straight up with them. And I got to tell you, the response that I got from it was at least 60 people in this room, youngsters. The response I got was just phenomenal. I told them, I said, it's not just about I'm here to share with you. I want you guys to look at candidates, look where you live, find out about this, find out about that. Well,
Mhm.
it was. I got a call the next day from the program director, and he said, I don't know what you did, man, but you are the only person that's ever come in here that is like lit a fire under these guys. Because when you left, they all wanted to sign up to vote, which was great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will tell you that it's not easy running. You have to really, if you're going to step up, you really got to do it for the right reasons. Unfortunately, what we've experienced in the last several years, the last decade for that matter, has been people in office creating laws. You just gave a perfect example of things that should be helping our families and they're not. And I think for me, one of my biggest drive is to make that change, right? Talk to our communities, make our communities better because, I mean, what do we have left, right? California right now it's on the brink of pretty much this, it's been in disaster for the last decade at least. And I don't want to get into all this politics and stuff, but the reality is it's like we said, we if we want change, we need to get out there and make the difference by voting. But thanks for bringing that up, you know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your service and your continued service. That's what it's all about. Grassroots. I'm going to make a difference in at least my backyard and stepping out of your life to do that. The time, the muck you have to walk through, people throwing rocks at you just because you're principled, all of that. It takes a little thick skin and it takes a lot of bravery and family support, which I know you have. So thanks for what you're doing and what you're about to do. And good luck today.
I appreciate it. So
Sure.
let me go back to asking you something else too, because we talked about different age groups with finances, how to help kids. We talked about kids coming out of high school, college, and so forth. But what role does financial literacy play in making informed voting decisions or choices?
Well, you kind of have to take a macro view, I think. Micro, we see every month what our spending is, what our saving is, what we're able to do, what we can afford, and what we used to be able to afford, what we hope to afford. But I think it's kind of a macro view when we're looking at voting. It's like the whole economy impacts everything that we do. The sectors that we work in are impacted by legislators' decisions, right? So it might impact you on a very guttural level, like, wow, if they stroke of a pen change that industry, I'm out of work or
Yeah.
I'm in work, or my business goes away, or now I have something new I can begin. And again, we've seen that since COVID, so many things come and go, so much change. But I think when we take that macro view, we look at, okay, what is likely to happen in the legislature? Who's making the decisions? And what is that fiscal policy going to be that might trickle down and impact my industry, my family, my community, my state? There's so many aspects of that, but financially, that's what we got to look at, right? The big picture.
So you being in finance and seeing all these trends, even way before the election happened and all this thing going down the road, what do you think it's might be the outcome of this election that influences the stock market or real estate values? What are you seeing
Oh,
right now out there?
crystal ball. Isn't that the question everybody's asking?
The
Media.
million-dollar question. Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go down that road, but I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have, an indication of what the future is going to hold. But what I do know is, as a family, as a small business, we've got several businesses that we own. Um, you can, um, you can be careful. You can be prepared. And I talk a lot about preparation. And that means whatever happens, even if it's the worst thing in your mind, make sure that you're prepared. You have the right staff, you have the right savings, you have the right line of credit set up for your business. You have a HELOC available. So if you need to get your hands on money in a pinch because things have changed, like COVID, a lot of things change fast for people. That might happen again, depending on who the lawmakers are going to be. And then looking at the bigger picture, if more liberal spending trends are going to happen, we want to be prepared for more taxes. So that means more savings, maybe tightening the belt a little bit to prepare for the taxes that would come. And then on the other side, the talk is, well, if we get in, we want to vote for less taxes, right? That's more the conservative side. If we have less taxes, then that gives us more room for growth. So we're thinking then about, how are we going to expand our business? That line that I wanted to bring out, that new um, bailiwick that I wanted to manufacture, that new property I wanted to buy, the new plant I wanted to open. Can I do that now? Can I expand my business because I'll have a little reprieve from taxes, or will it be constrained? And so we'll know more, I think, in the coming days, weeks. We'll see how things go, of how, and that's really going to be the national legislators, right? We're looking at the big Senate races, the big House races. So those are the ones. And then, of course, the president gets to veto or gets to acknowledge the rules. So that's all going to play into what's going to happen. But when we're looking at tax policy, when we're looking at the impact of our P&L and our bottom line every month, every quarter, every year as a business, or even a good sized family, with some legacy, all of that's going to be impacted by the decision makers in Washington. So I'm keeping a really good idea, a really good eye on how that might unfold tonight as I'm watching those races.
So I know we're getting close to the end of the show, but I want you to touch on something because I talked a little bit about the youngsters, right? There's a lot of kids, including my own, who turned 18 for the very first time and got to vote, which is an amazing thing for me to watch, right? Especially when he put a check mark on my name, it was just like awesome, right?
You got to vote
So
for dad. That's so exciting.
for that, which is awesome. So
Yeah.
for young voters or first-time voters, what advice would you give them for evaluating financial policy, specifically in an election?
Ooh, well, there's so many layers to that, and I don't know how much time young people want to put into this, but I know some really do. Oh, I don't know. I think I just come from the background of I've got this. I can handle business. I can handle my family. I don't have debt. When I did, I got out of it real quick. Um, we manage our business, and we do really well without the government telling us what to do. So for me personally, less is more. And so I think if we can spend, I see this on the charitable side. We tend to be philanthropic. We love to help other people, help other causes that we care about and make a difference. I would prefer to do that individually than have the government do it. So if we give money to the government and they help charities, they help people in need and things like that, I think we can do a whole lot better of it individually than the government. So that's kind of like less government on that front is more comfortable for me. I see charitable people all the time making a big impact, in our communities and our states globally. And I think we are a lot more efficient at that. And speaking of efficiency, we have earthquakes here in California. And so when we have to really quick put a road together or put a bridge together or, contractors right away, we need to fix this. It's costing $500,000 a day to not have the road open. They get those jobs done when it's private way faster and way cheaper than when the government does it. I don't know why that is, but the efficiency seems to be there for individuals. There's motivation and incentives to get it done, capitalism, right? But I don't think that's a bad word all the time. They get it done more efficiently than the government. And I think there are a lot of things about the government that are inefficient, and that means time and money. So when it
Mhm.
comes to money, you end up with costs that you don't need. You end up with fluff. You end up with expenses that are just too high. And if we can do it better on our own or privately, let's contract with the government, right? If they need a bridge, I'm happy to build it, but let's do it in an efficient way. So, all that to be said, as an example, young people looking at what could come, do you feel like it's better for the government in all areas of life, right? We're just talking financial today, but all areas of life. Is the government more efficient and better at doing that than private sector, or is private sector better at doing it than the government? And if you think the government's better, then let's go ahead and give them more money. Let's give them more tax. Let's give them more power to regulate and take care of business. We've got to have some of that, but let's give them more if we think they're better at it. Let's give them less if we think we can do that better privately. I think that's a way to think about it. And wherever you come down is fine as long as you get there reasonably through reasoning, not just through what you see on your phone, the headlines or whatever the media says or whatever one politician says. Make your own decisions about how you think the future ought to look for you and your family and your children, right? Then
Yeah,
you'll get the
no,
right decision at your house every time.
absolutely. And we are at the tail end of our show. You know what that means for Super Tuesday, folks. I'm going to call it our Super Tuesday challenge, right? Financial challenge.
Super Tuesday challenge. The first thing, if you haven't voted, do that, right? There's still a few hours you can get that done depending on where you live. Um, and after this election, I just challenge you to get involved. Either read up on the community offerings, in the next election. There's elections not just every 4 years. There's special elections and we have them frequently, right? So get involved, either offer to run for office. That would be great. That's like the big kahuna. Thank you very much, Carlos, for doing that. Or support somebody who's running for office or volunteer to help, at the polls to help somehow with the elections. Support your local superintendent, support your school district, go to a community meeting, go to a council meeting, Go to a local meeting, support what's going on, be part of it, not just watching the game, but get on the field and help somehow. And I think if everybody does that, we're stronger, when everybody's contributing, no matter what your values or your beliefs are or who you're voting for. But get involved, make a difference. And if you haven't voted, do that. Drag other people in to vote. Encourage everybody to be involved at some level. That's your challenge.
All right, folks, you've heard the challenge. If you have any questions, let us know. We'd love to hear some feedback on some of these challenges from you guys as well. And if you have any other questions or topics for the show, please let us know as well. And of course, if you're not following Judy, shame on you. No, I'm kidding. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.today. Today, like we said, we talked about getting out there and vote. So any last parting words, Judy?
No, just make it a great day. Celebrate whatever happens. Just celebrate that we get to be here. We get to be free, and there's new beginnings coming. It's going to be great.
All right. Until next Tuesday. Remember, we're here Tuesdays at 8 a.m. and follow up on Thursdays at 8 p.m. We'll see you guys till next week. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.